Hey y'all! Beating Pokemon Crystal using only one Scizor was a cut above the rest. But this week, it's really gonna suck. It's St. Patrick's Day, and I'm gonna beat Pokemon Crystal using only one Sunkern. Oh my god. As usual, the rules are I can only use Sunkern in battle, and I can't use any trainer items in battle. By the way, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and check out more of these videos on my channel. Sunkern is one of the worst Pokemon to have ever existed. After all, it's based upon a sunflower seed, and that doesn't exactly instill imagery of battle prowess now, does it? Sunkern is so bad, in fact, that I genuinely have no idea if this challenge is even possible. And once we get into the details of this Pokemon, you'll probably start to see why. Sunkern has base 30 for all of its stats, and for the sake of putting that into perspective, that's like Ditto having half of its base stats, and that Pokemon is also really, really bad. Bad stats aren't always a deal breaker as long as the Pokemon has a decent move pool, which Sunkern does not. Outside of Hidden Power, Sunkern's only coverage moves are normal, grass, and poison type. Well, Sunkern might have no battle prowess, but at least it's kinda cute, right? I guess you can say it's a clover and not a fighter. Alright, let's do this. Off at Professor Elm's lab, I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Chikorita with Sunkern so that our rival will pick the Fire-type Cyndaquil. Sunkern is a Grass type, so the Fire type should be the hardest for us to handle. I mean, as if I need to make this challenge any harder than it already is. Sunkern is a really bad Pokemon that looks like a clover, and since we're going to need the luck of the Irish to win this one, I nickname ours Sucky Charms. And look, I know that it's technically a religious holiday, and that the American sense of St. Patrick's Day is based upon harmful stereotypes like leprechauns and potatoes, but I gotta make puns that people will understand here, so just green and bear it? Sunkern starts off with Absorb and Growth. Absorb is a terrible move, but ironically, both of these moves are two of the best attacks that we'll get throughout the entire run. Even with Growth, which allows us to boost our special attack, and believe me, that's something for which I'm very grateful, we lose pretty readily to the first battle with the rival Bubs. And I don't think without leveling up we could actually win this battle, but like a drink special on St. Patrick's Day, it was worth a shot. After losing to Bubs, I head to the Violet City Gym to take on the leader Faulkner and his flying freaks. Sunkern is weak to flying, so I'm worried about how this will go, but Faulkner actually does us a favor. His lead Pidgey doesn't actually have a flying move to hit us, so it goes for Tackle instead. And I'm very happy that Faulkner doesn't have the forethought to use Mud Slap instead, which would lower our accuracy and be absolutely horrible. Since it doesn't, I'm free to maximize our special attack stat with Growth, which lets us actually do some meaningful damage with Mega Drain despite it being resisted. Pidgeotto does actually have a flying move, so without Growth to boost our damage output, I have no idea how high of a level we'd have to be to win this battle. Somehow we managed to beat the flying gym leader on the first try though, so not a bad way to get the patty started. Now in Azalea Town, I'm ready to take on Bugsy the Bug-type gym leader for the Hive Badge. And if I was worried about Faulkner, then I was metaphorically crapping my pantaloons for this one. Sunkern is a weak Pokemon, and on top of that, Bugsy's Pokemon either resist or double resist our grass moves. Plus, it doesn't help that Scyther's Fury Cutter is super effective, and slams us pretty hard. And even with the ability to easily maximize our special attack against the Metapod, the closest I got to winning this battle at this level was when Scyther randomly switches from Fury Cutter to Quick Attack, which gives us extra turns to attack it, but still, it's not enough. Scyther is just way too strong, and Sunkern ails in comparison. I don't actually manage to win this battle until level 33. Woohoo! Oh my god, at which point, Mega Drain is a 3-hit KO on Scyther, while also recovering just enough health to keep us from being knocked out by Fury Cutter. And hello audience, I would just like to point out that we're only at the second gym, and we're already 1/3 of the maximum level possible in this game. And that's not a great sign for Sunkern. But don't count us out just yet. It ain't Clover till the fat lady sings. Now that we've snubbed Bugsy's grubs, it's time to get the dub against Bubs, and because of Scyther's double resistance to grass, we had to get to such a high level that we actually managed to sweep Bubs' team with relative ease. And I say this because I won on the first try, despite Bubs' entire team resisting our grass moves. I take down Ghastly before getting paralyzed by Lick, and then grab a few more growths against the Zubat since, well, it does double resist, and by the time we get to the Quilava, we have enough health left over to tank the Ember and pick up the knockout. And I know some people are probably complaining, "Duh, you only won because Sunkern is over-leveled." What can I say? Tater's gonna tate! That's right, people. Leprechauns and potatoes. I really meant it. Next up is the Goldenrod City Gym and the battle with Whitney's Miltank. I figure my strategy to maximize our special with growth will be great, since we can just heal off any damage we take with Mega Drain. Now, Sunkern is a 2-leaf clover, and clovers are normally 3-leafed, so if an extra leaf makes the clover lucky, then I guess one less clover makes it unlucky, huh? And of course I say this because Clefairy uses Metronome into Explosion to knock us out. Talk about unlucky. I guess I should have been more careful, but then again, I do hate having to tiptoe around. On the second attempt, Clefairy doesn't call anything too crazy with Metronome, and despite Double Slap dealing a lot of damage, Mega Drain heals back a bunch of our health. And man, I don't even want to think about how much harder this challenge would be if we didn't have the ability to heal back so readily. That's right, they could have made this Pokemon even worse somehow. But Miltank comes out, and I get that extra leaf I was looking for, as Sunkern 1 KOs the Miltank, thanks to a critical hit. Yeah, that's not happening otherwise. I mean, come on, really? If you think this little seed is like some kind of powerhouse, you're in for a rude awakening. Alright, now that we've beaten the cattle, it's time to skedaddle. In the next battle, with Bubs inside the burnt tower in Ecruteak City, was too hard to win until we reached level 38, and also replaced Sunny Day with the move Return. And if you've watched enough of these challenges, then you probably already know how I feel about this move. Something something best option, something something keyboard warriors, blah blah blah, whatever. Haunter thankfully waits several turns before using Curse, giving us time to set up a few growths which we'll need to restore some health later in the battle. Return is really helpful for taking down the Zubat and the Quilava, but since Magnemite resists normal, it's best for us to go for the resisted Mega Drain, which thanks to growth is not a 1-hit KO, but does do enough damage to help heal us out of range from Sonic Boom and Curse knocking us out. Bubs tried to get in the way of our St. Patrick's Day fun, but now that we've finally beaten him, the jig is up. Next up is the Spectral Showdown with the Ecruteak City Gym Leader Morty and his gang of ghoulish ghosts. And I don't know why exactly, but Morty's ghosts seem to be delaying going for Curse on the first turn like usual. And I think it has to do with the fact that we're at a higher level. I mean, I have no proof, but I trust my hunches. We are able to get in a few growths before taking a Curse, but Ghastly ends up paralyzing us with Lick. But this isn't so bad though, since it means we can't be put to sleep by Gengar and then decimated by Dream Eater. In fact, with the special attack boosts, the extra power of Giga Drain, which is, the best move we'll get this whole run, and the fact that we didn't get fully paralyzed once, Sunkern was surprisingly able to beat Morty on the second try in 2 near-identical punch-drunk slugfest, or as I like to call it, Deja Brew. Now with the ability to surf outside of battle, I set sail from Olivine City and head to the Cianwood City Gym to take on the fighting-type leader Chuck. I was surprised at how well Morty went, but this is the first gym battle where we never even came close to losing. Chuck's lead Primeape does lower our defense and do some big damage with Karate Chop, but he also wastes turns going for Leer, allowing us to set up several growths. And a boosted Giga Drain wallops the Primeape, and thanks to being super effective, it double wallops the Poliwrath. We even finished the battle with full health. We absolutely wrecked him. But don't feel too bad, Chuck. You tried your best. After all, it's the taunt that counts. Next up is the Steel-type Gym Leader Jasmine. And I probably should just go take on Price, since despite being the Ice-type Gym Leader, his entire team is weak to Grass. But no! I'd rather fight Jasmine, because I'm an idiot. Well, my first attempt to beat her, it doesn't go very well. Even with a Paralyzed Cure Berry to heal off a Thunder Wave, we still get paralyzed and Sunkern gets roasted by Thunderbolts before we get past the first Magnemite. Man, I guess I forgot to wear green today because we're in a bit of a pinch. Okay, a few tries later and I am back in the saddle, baby. We managed to get past the Magnemite with 3 growths and only a confusion, and well, that might not sound great, but I consider that pretty lucky. 3 special attack boosts is enough to make Giga Drain a real threat against the Steelix, but the Steel Snake also smashes us with Iron Tail. But Giga Drain heals just enough HP for us to survive a second Iron Tail, and against the last Magnemite, it heals us just enough to survive a Thunderbolt to finish off the battle. Man, that was closer than a photo finish race. And for St. Patrick's Day, you could even say it's picture perfect. After dispatching the Lake of Rage Team Rocket hideout portion of the game, I then headed to take on Price the Ice-type gym leader in Mahogany Town. And like I mentioned previously, Price's whole team is weak to grass, so we just gotta get a few boosts with growth, and then we'll be Gucci Mane. We are weak to ice though, so it's not like we're not taking big damage in return, but Giga Drain heals enough to withstand the onslaught of super effective attacks. We thankfully outspeed the Piloswine too, because I actually don't know if we would take a Blizzard, but the way it went, we win the battle at full health. Price and his ice types probably think Christmas is nice, but our Clover just proved that it's really St. Patrick's Day that's the most wonderful time of the year. And with 7 gym badges in hand, we now have to take on the rival Bubs in the basement underground during the Team Rocket Radio Tower anime arc. And this time around, Bubs leads off with Golbat, which double resists our grass moves and also hits us hard with Wing Attack. Great. We need to get up growths, but that's easier said than done again. After a lot of losses, I figure out that the best way to win this battle is to get 2 growths against the Golbat and then try to knock it out with Return before we get confused. Then we need to get some favorable damage rolls with Giga Drain to knock out the Quilava in 2 hits. Otherwise, we get knocked out to Flame Wheel even with the Giga Drain healing us. Magnemite ends up paralyzing us, but with the help of Giga Drain, we're able to withstand Bubs' attacks, and we get to the Sneasel, just to barely miss the KO. That's okay, because just like an unopened keg, all it needs is a tap. Just a little tap to knock it out. Oh my god. Like I said, with just a little tap, we're able to finish off the Sneasel to defeat Bubs. And it definitely didn't take like 13 more tries to get back to this point, and I'm definitely not mad about it. Oh no, there's no gold, but only suffering at the end of this painbow. Having slid through Ice Path and making it to Blackthorn City, it's now time for the final Johto gym leader, Claire the Dragon Trainer. And this battle was kinda terrible too. Her Dragonaires love to spam Thunder Wave, which I can normally mitigate somewhat with a Paralyzed Cure Berry, but I actually don't have one to spare. Long story short, I am bad at item management. And wouldn't you know it, we get paralyzed and lose. Hooray! Alright, let's try this again. And oh yeah, we're still paralyzed, but whatever. Still, I managed to get a couple of growths up, and while we're taking a lot of damage, we're healing back just enough with Giga Drain to keep us in the battle. And once we get to the Kingdra, I'm actually relieved. Because normally it's a problem child, but because it's Dragon and Water type, it's neutral to Grass. And as we tank a Hyper Beam, Giga Drain knocks out the Seahorse for the win. Good job, Sunkern, on defeating Claire's Brogues Gallery. What's a brogue, you ask?
Look it up.
Before we reach the Elite Four, we have to take on the rival Bubs in Victory Road. These battles with Bubs are not getting any easier, which is strange because the Victory Road fight is often a formality for most of these challenges. His lead Sneasel spamming Fury Cutter is normally a really dumb move, but here it actually hurts. His Golbat loves to come out and then confuse us, and we usually get knocked out to Wing Attack, but this time we managed to sneak past it. We barely tanked Typhlosion's Flame Wheel, but we're faster, so one more Giga Drain should knock it out, and oh yeah, it has Quick Attack. Hard to win when you can't move first, or as I like to call it, you snooze, you booze. And once again, we've gone full 2-leaf clover on this one. We're not only confused while fighting Typhlosion, but also Flame Wheel lands a burn, and we knock ourselves out in confusion! Okay, after several more tries, we finally make it past the Typhlosion, despite bad luck's best efforts. Geez, it seems like Lady Luck really enjoys kicking me in the groin today, huh? After that, though, our growth boosted attacks, and the fact that we're like twice its level, blast through the rest of Bubs' team. We're really riding the struggle Bubs now, and if I said I felt confident about the Elite Four after that ordeal, I'd really be starching the truth. Speaking of which, somehow, Sunkern has made it to the Pokemon League, so here are the stats and moves. You can see we still have Mega Drain, which is basically just a weaker version of Giga Drain, and that might seem redundant, but Giga Drain doesn't have much BP, and when it comes to recovering health, we need to suck as much as we can. We don't really have better options either, just like we don't really have good stats. Good lord, these stats are small potatoes, and I guess it really is feast or famine with this Pokemon. Up first is the Psychic-type Elite Four member Will. I have Sunkern holding a Bitter Berry to help deal with the Xatu's Confuse Ray, but not so we can set up growths. No, I just need to knock out Xatu with 2 returns before we get confused a second time. The Jinx will go down in 1 return as well, and then the Exeggutor comes out for some reason. I'm not upset about it though, since it is the least of all Will's evils. Psychics do hurt, but it's better than Confuse Ray or Ice Punch, so now is the opportunity to set up our growths and then Giga Drain away. We've got just enough firepower and health to withstand Exeggutor and Xatu's attacks to get to the Slowbro and finish the battle. Wow, this battle actually made Sunkern look good for once. You know, like a real spud muffin. Next up is Koga, the Poison and Bug type Elite Four member. I am pretty worried about this one, since Poison is super effective against Sunkern, and I already know that I'm going to need to grab a gaggle of growths against the lead Ariados, since its only offensive move is Giga Drain. The only downside to this is that it can also use Double Team, and we all know how annoying that is, but what's even worse is when it uses Baton Pass to swap into Venomoth. And now normally you lose stat boost when you switch out, but Baton Pass lets you switch into another Pokemon while passing those stat boosts to them. So, great, now the Venomoth has boosted evasion, and it badly poisons us with Toxic. I probably should have equipped a Poison Cure Berry, and I probably need to change up the strategy here. We ended up missing a ton of moves, but don't worry, I'll land an attack eventually. Alright, so I tried this one a ton of times, and the strategy that ended up working for me was to replace Mega Drain with Swagger. It confuses the opponent while raising their attack by 2 stages, which means they take twice as much damage from confusion. You could say the confusion damage is doubling. It's a bit of a double-edged sword sometimes against Pokemon that use attacks over special attacks, like how Venomoth has the move Gust, but it's really our best option here. We absolutely need to set up growths to get through the rest of Koga's Pokemon, so we're relying on Swagger and Confusion Luck to help us build our special attack. Muck with our boosted special attack is a 2-shot with Giga Drain, and it goes for Acid Armor to boost its defense instead of hitting us with a devastating Sludge. And Crobat double resists Giga Drain, so thankfully, Return is a 2-shot as well. When we don't miss our moves thanks to Double Team, of course. Despite the fact that Fortress double resists grass moves, I am totally surprised to find out that Giga Drain still does over half, and Koga wastes his last chance to win with Explosion by going for Spikes instead, a move that does nothing since we'll never switch Pokemon. Then again, it wouldn't be the first time on St. Patrick's Day someone made a poor decision. Next up is the Fighting-type Elite Four member Bruno, and for once, I'm not actually worried about Sunkern winning a battle, since Bruno leads off with a Hitmontop that is perfect for letting us set up growths. I'm so confident, in fact, I don't restore Giga Drain's PP before the battle. We only have 4 of our 8 Giga Drains left, but despite our PP being half the normal size, it's more than enough to smash Bruno's Pokemon. Hitmontop's quick attack does piddly damage, and honestly the worst thing it can do is use Protect when we try to go for Giga Drain, therefore wasting our PP. But Giga Drain takes out the Hitmontop, the Hitmonchan, but Hitmonlee has bad defense so I knock it out with Return to save a Giga Drain for Bruno's last Pokemon Onix. And yeah, boosting Onix's attack would not be a good idea considering its high defense and the move Earthquake. And don't forget about Sandstorm chip damage. Because getting knocked out by potato chip damage is what I like to call being hash brown for the count. Up next is the Dark-type Elite Four member Karen. And considering our history with Karen, I have no problem spamming Swagger against her Pokemon, especially when her lead Scumbreon spams Confuse Ray and Sand Attack in return. Still, even with Swagger, this battle is not easy. My goal is to stall for time to use as many growths as possible, and hopefully Umbreon will just knock itself out from confusion damage. I made a mistake here though by going for a Return against Vileplume instead of confusing it first, since it turns around and paralyzes us with Stun Spore. We take it down, but Sunkern eventually loses to Houndoom, but not before tanking a Flamethrower. If only we didn't get paralyzed, we might have actually won that. Ugh, what a crying Seamus. I had to retry this battle a lot of times. Even with a Bitter Berry to heal Confusion, so many times I get blinded by Sand Attack, and even if I get all of our growth set up, we end up just missing our attacks anyways. It takes a while before I get an attempt where I not only manage to get past the Scumbreon without taking a Sand Attack, but also get past the Vileplume without being paralyzed by Stun Spore. We flip the Swagger coin against the Houndoom, and it hits itself in Confusion, doing just enough chip damage for us to take it down with Return. We confuse Gengar with Swagger, and it then helps us pick up the knockout by cutting its own health in half with Curse. And the Curse doesn't end up mattering because Murkrow comes out and gets 1-hit KO by Giga Drain, ending the battle before we take any Curse damage at all. And thank God that one is over. It really went Leprechaun and on and on. Now it's time for the champion battle with the last member, Lance the Dragon Master. This battle is going to be a real doozy for Sunkern, since Lance has really bulky Pokemon, and most of them resist, if not double resist, our Giga Drain. So, we have to rely on the move Swagger if we want to win this one, short of leveling up a ton, which I really don't want to do. Hey, remember in the past when I mentioned that Swagger is a bit of a double-edged sword? Oh boy, swaggering a Gyarados that knows Hyper Beam is a bad idea, and it's an even worse idea to do it to a Dragonite. Holy O'Houlihan, Sunkern is terrible. This is only halfway through the game, and I seriously don't even know if we can win at this point. That's like finally making it to the end of the rainbow, but instead of untold treasures, the only thing there is a pot of mold. Okay, so first things first, we need more levels, so I used the rare candies to get to one of the damage rounding levels, ones that end in 0, 3, 5, or 8. And then, instead of swaggering the Gyarados, I simply set up growths. I found that for some reason, Gyarados will sometimes go for Flail, which does basically no damage. We usually take a few Hyper Beams for our troubles, but the recharge turns give us extra moments to use growth, and Giga Drain helps to heal our health. With the extra levels, Swagger Confusion damage plus 2 returns takes down the Dragonite, while a Paralyzed Cure Berry keeps us status free. Giga Drain heals the damage we take from Aerodactyl, but the Charizard is really scary. We absolutely cannot let that thing use Flamethrower, so we pray to the gods of swag to bail us out. Lance's Ace Dragonite locks itself into Outrage, and we critical hit a Giga Drain, which saves us an extra turn by knocking it out early. Lance still has one last Dragonite in tow, and it even paralyzes us, but despite being fully paralyzed, and me shaking in my boots, Sunkern clutches out the victory to spare me any further suffering. And with Lance defeated, we have finally conquered the Pokemon League. But it's not quite time to river dance the night away just yet. I'm always going to consider beating the final trainer Red as the final boss of the run, unless of course a Pokemon is just impossibly bad, and I think Sunkern might be, but I'm going to go for it anyways. I set sail upon the SS Aqua to head on over to Kanto to take on their HM leaders to acquire all 16 badges to earn the right to challenge Red atop Mount Silver. And I got through most of them without much trouble, mostly just because we're very high leveled, so now it's time to take on the final Kanto Gym Leader Blue. And he's got a pretty strong team, but by the time we get to him, our Sunkern is almost level 90. Still, our stats are lower than most of his Pokemon stats, so this could be bad. Thankfully for us, his lead Pidgeot goes for 5 consecutive mirror moves before finally going for Wing Attack. And look at that damage too. Would have been a lot harder had he actually done the right thing. Exeggutor barely survives a Giga Drain, but thankfully it charges up a Solar Beam and then goes down before the move can hit. Arcanine comes out and tanks a Giga Drain and then smashes us to super low health with a Flamethrower. And we could easily lose to a priority Extreme Speed moving before we can, but Blue chooses to heal with Full Restore, giving us an extra Giga Drain to heal ourselves out of Extreme Speed range. Alakazam sets up Reflect rather than attacking us, and Blue's last Pokemon Rhydon probably would have fainted to a non-boosted Giga Drain anyways. Seems like we really shamrocked Blue's socks off. But, yeah. It's time for the bad part now. So with all 16 badges in hand, it's time to take on the final trainer Red atop Mount Silver. And this is the part I've been dreading the entire time, since long before I even sat down to actually play this challenge. Red's team on its own is hard enough, and it's super tough to make it past the Pikachu without being paralyzed by Thunder, having our attack stat reduced by Charm, or just getting knocked out altogether. We absolutely need to set up growths against the Pikachu too, since the rest of Red's Pokemon are just way too strong to mess around in front of for even a moment. And you can see that even the Venusaur does a ton of damage with its resisted Solar Beam, which thanks to setting up Sunny Day, it can fire in rapid succession without charging. You could even call it a submarine gun. So there's no point in beating around the bush. Sunkern needs to be at level 100 to even stand a chance here. And even with all of that, this battle is still really tough and I have to reset so many times. Even at level 100, I barely ever make it past the Pikachu, and only one time did I actually make it past the Venusaur with full health. And it turns out that was all for naught though, because after the Venusaur is the Charizard. And here's where the problem lies. We get knocked out from full health with a single flamethrower, and no, it was not boosted by Sunny Day. Oh, I wish this wasn't so difficult. At this point, I decided to do some actual calculations to figure out if there was any point to continuing this absolute farce of a challenge. Well, it turns out there's literally a 0% chance for our Sunkern to survive a flamethrower. Even a pretty good Sunkern has a very, very low chance to survive a flamethrower. And in fact, if we somehow manage to get a statistically perfect Sunkern with fully maxed out stat experience, there's still basically a 50% chance that we survive a flamethrower. So, short of cosmic radiation causing my game to glitch the Charizard out of existence, this just ain't happening. And just like having one too many on St. Patrick's Day, we have reached the pint of no return. So, for the first time ever, I think I have to give up on a challenge. It's just not possible with this Sunkern. Wait a minute. This Sunkern. What if I used a Game Shark to modify our Sunkern to be the ultimate specimen? Could we beat Red then? I mean, it is technically possible to acquire this Sunkern, just highly unlikely. Well, that's exactly what I did. Shoutouts to Scott's Thoughts for preparing the save file for me to try this. I couldn't figure it out in due time, and he's an absolute legend, so go check out his channel if you haven't already. And you can see from the stats that this is statistically the strongest Sunkern possible you can find in this game. So if this thing can't beat Red, then nothing will. Alright, nothing left to do but see if this is even possible. So first things first, we gotta set up against the Pikachu just like before. And now that we aren't using Return, Pikachu going for Charm is actually a good thing for us, since it just means a free turn to use Growth. And after getting all of our Growth set up, the first time Pikachu lands a Thunder, you can tell the difference in bulk for Sunkern having better DVs and full stat experience. It barely does anything. Swagger helps us get past the Venusaur before it can set up a Sunny Day, which would require an immediate reset, although unfortunately, it survives confusion damage and a Giga Drain on a Sliver, forcing me to waste further BP to knock it out. Then the Charizard comes out, and it's the moment of truth. It goes for Flamethrower, and we survive. Oh yeah, baby, let's go. We can totally do this. The Lava Lizard hits itself in confusion twice, and we finish it off with a second Giga Drain. Espeon comes out, and we have just enough health to survive a Psychic and 1 KO with Giga Drain in return. Snorlax comes out, and I confuse it with Swagger. I need the chip damage for Giga Drain to pick up the knockout, and it also prevents Snorlax from going for Amnesia to boost its special defense. Blastoise is the Blastoise, and I'm worried about a Blizzard, but we outspeed, and Giga Drain picks up the 1-hit KO. And with that, the challenge is finally over. Listen, Sunkern might be bad, but it did beat Red. So at the heart of the matter, Sunkern was the star of the show. It wasn't exactly a horseshoe in, and several times I thought it was game clover. Every once in a blue moon, a challenge comes along that really seems impossible, like finding the pots of gold at the end of the rainbow. I was worried that Sunkern would sink faster than a red balloon, but in the end, it really turned out to be my lucky charm. As always, I want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. These videos are a lot of fun, but also a lot of work, so I really do appreciate it. And there's a playlist on my channel where you can find the rest of my Pokemon Challenge videos if you want to check those out as well. And if you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you'll know right away the next time one of these episodes is uploaded. And if you want early access to these videos and to have your name listed in the credits, consider becoming a member or joining on Patreon. And if you have a Pokemon you want to see, let me know in the comments, and I'll probably do it. Next week, I'm going to try to beat Pokemon Red using only one Seal. Alright, until next time,